Hello everybody, I'm here again for another round, for another video. So I know the title is Finally Politics is Over, and it is for the most part. The election is over and I'm sure a lot of us are happy, and I've been wanting to invest time in this, my podcast, in this, my channel, if you will, into subjects that do not have to do with politics. And I know politics rubs a lot of people the wrong way. A lot of people don't want to engage in it. A lot of people take it too personal. This was never supposed to be a political channel. But since it started in election year, I knew it was going to sweep me away. It did for the most part. And I know the title is Finally We're Out of Politics. The election is over. We already know what happened. The new administration hasn't come in yet. But besides all that, this is still going to have a little bit of politics involved in it, because it's kind of like the farewell to a lot of political topics. Now, I still plan to make videos in regards to politics, but it's going to have a separate section. This one is going to have politics. It's going to have a separate. So my main topic would be in general, which is titled Anything Goes. So it's not going to be about politics. It's going to be about what I want to share, what I feel is important, maybe current events, what I've been through, what I've experienced, and what I feel, could help someone out there. Some experience that I feel that could be beneficial, that could help any listener out there. And that's kind of the point, to share my experience and my knowledge to where it might pertain. So before we say goodbye to politics for now, there's a couple of things I wanted to address that I've been seeing. So I try to be as unbiased as I can on this page, because I know I have a lot of similarities with both sides of the political spectrum. What's going on right now is that Joseph, Robin, and Biden, your president, if you're an American, he decided to pardon his son. And everybody's up in arms, including some Democrats. Let me tell you what I think about that. The fact that a president has the ability to do that, it just always kind of doesn't make sense. Like, they're already semi above the law of the fact that they could grant pardons to people, but that exists. So that being said, I do not have an issue with him pardoning his son. If you did not have an issue with all the pardons that Trump gave to his inner circle for lying to the FBI, tax evasion, for things that he had pleaded guilty for, and there was a plethora on his way out. I think even his last day, he even pardoned Lil Wayne. But no one had an issue. No one batted an eye. And if you didn't bat an eye back then, I don't see why you're up in arms because Joe Biden pardoned his son. Do you even know what he pardoned his son for? So there's a couple of things. One, he bought a gun, and you can't own a firearm if you're addicted to drugs or an alcoholic, something of that nature. So he lied by saying no, because later he admitted that he was addicted during that time. So he lied on his application to buy a gun. He never fired the gun. He only had it for, I believe, less than 2 weeks, and his girlfriend found it and she threw it away. The other one was tax evasion, where personal stuff that he bought, he wrote them off as business expenses. What a lot of rich people, what a lot of politicians do. In a way, you could say it was a political attack to try to go after him, when probably everyone in Congress there, both Republican and Democrat, are guilty of the same crimes. But they went after him because, they feel like Biden was going after Trump, which he really wasn't, because the attorney general that he installed didn't really go after him until it was too late. If it's there, and if it's not for an actual violent offense, that's where I don't have an issue with it. The fact that it was Hunter Biden makes it like the craziest thing in the world, because we've heard a lot from the right, from Republicans, complaining about Hunter Biden and his laptop for 4 years now. And they make it seem like he's the craziest person. Yeah, he's crazy, but you don't see anyone on the left protecting him. When he got charged, it's like, all right, good. He got caught committing a crime, and now he's paying the price. Even though kind of deep down or in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, they went after him. Okay. But he was not in the White House. He did not have a position. He did not have security clearance in the White House like Trump's sons did. People in Trump's administration had criminal records, had history, pleading guilty to certain crimes, and they were pardoned. So what I have an issue with is everybody up in arms saying, how could he have done that? Like, how could he have how could he have pardoned his son? I thought that no one was above the law. Well, yeah, I think in a sense still no one is above the law, but the Supreme Court kind of made it clear that they have now a president has immunity when they're doing a presidential act. So that's pretty vague. That leaves it up to the court. Then the courts are going to take it back up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to say, well, that falls under a presidential act, so he can get away with it. It's pretty obvious now that Trump, for now, he is above the law because he's guilty of committing crimes, federal crimes. He is on audio showing the classified documents to other people, saying it has to do with the military, and he acknowledges in the audio that they are classified national security documents. So the proof was there. It was just about going to court and charging him for those crimes, that they never happened and that is never going to happen now that he won the election. I would only say if you're really annoyed or bothered about Biden pardoning Hunter Biden and it contradicts that his statements of no one is above the law, then you should really be bothered and be frustrated or angered at the pardons that Trump did, especially to Jared Kushner's father. So his son-in-law's father got pardoned for the same or worse crimes than Hunter Biden. It just seems very hypocritical to me, okay? Anyway, that's one political thing I wanted to get out of the way. The other thing is the Trump's picks for his administration so far. So I haven't said much of it. I'm not really big on his picks and, they're so unqualified, and because it hasn't played out yet. We don't know how it's going to play out. Maybe some of these picks aren't as bad as they seem. We don't know that yet. So why are we already losing our minds over these picks when they haven't even been confirmed yet? But the media, that's how the media works. Oh my God, look at this person. And they're going to dig and they're going to dig. And they've been digging. Some of these picks, I don't think anybody could say they're good picks. Honestly, only an extremist that doesn't believe anything that's put out there could possibly say that those are not horrible staff choices by Donald Trump. They are bad, especially the Matt Gaetz one. His own party, his own people have said that he has shown pictures on the Senate floor of underage girls that he slept with. This is not a Democratic or a liberal attack. This isn't CNN or MSNBC going after him. This is his own Republican colleagues that have said this about him. That's a horrible choice in itself, especially with his age and with his lack of experience. What business does he have being Attorney General, being like the supreme, law of the United States? The other one is a Fox News host. But then when you find out that this Fox News host, has that white nationalist symbolic tattoo, it's the Jerusalem cross on his chest. Yeah, it's a crusader from those times, but it's really linked to a lot of white nationalism. A white supremacist sympathizer choosing a white nationalist for his staff. But more came out that he has a history of sexual misconduct. His own mother called him out on it. His own mom said he is abusive and he takes advantage of women. He got a divorce. A year later, he married another girl. Then he had to divorce her because he impregnated a coworker at Fox. And some of these other picks have just been horrible. I don't have time to go through all of them. There's a couple. The ones that don't make noise are the ones that aren't as bad. The ones that make a lot of noise is because there's something there. There's a lot there that could be unpacked. There's cans of worms everywhere. But there's a couple of picks that haven't seemed, that outrageous. But it's nothing new. When Biden took his administration and he started choosing, they started calling him out. Like, people in my community like to refer to Becerra. So he got put as, he was given a seat And he was grilled on his confirmation. Like, what experience do you have? You're unqualified. And yeah, a lot of members in my community, they enjoyed him getting grilled, which was good because he was not qualified. So he had probably no business being put there. But those same people will be okay with more unqualified people in this administration. It's a lot to get into, like giving over the keys to Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, just Trump loyalists, people that have been in the last 4 years fighting for Trump, donating, like the FBI director, Kash Patel. He would donate. He had like a fund for the January 6th rioters, the insurrectionists that are in jail. He would sell Trump merchandise. And just when he talks, he sounds like a spokesperson for, to try to work for Trump. And it's been paying off. This is why these people have lied in the media over and over, because it's going to pay off for them if Trump wins. No one decides to be into politics. Politics just gets you. And it's one of those things that no one decides, hey, you know what? I'm going to get into politics and I'm going to start debating. No, I fell into the political vortex. I got sucked in. My stance always was, I don't fold or conform to any political party because this side does this and this side believes in this. I think even when I created my Facebook back in 2009 or so, that was one of the things that it's probably still there, that I don't conform to any specific political party. I consider myself more of an independent because I know that the Republican Party was religious and I'm religious, but in everything else, it seems like Democrats were better for the economy, better for jobs, which is what was my main concern. That's always been my main focus. What's better for productivity? What's better for jobs? What's better for wages? What's better for growth in the economic? I'm not looking for a religious leader in politics. And I know they call themselves conservative, but it's not the same type of conservative that I grew up in. It's not according to my faith. I started noticing that everything negative that would happen, and online is when the online community started, everyone would blame Obama. And I thought it was interesting. Are they joking, or are they really believe Obama's to blame for everything bad? Because from what I know, and the people that I know that were undocumented, his policies really helped them, enable them to grow and to be productive and have their own businesses now. From getting driver's license, from being able to just being able to have a driver's license now you could travel to work without the fear of getting pulled over or getting deported. I remember growing up hearing at work, don't talk about religion or politics. Those are the two things you shouldn't talk about at work. That's because you could easily see someone different once you find out what their faith is and what their views are on politics. I've always been a bit of a justice warrior. And let me tell you what I mean. So I always grew up hating people that cheated. I hate cheaters in everything. This is why I always hated the Patriots. And I always despised Belichick and Tom Brady. You were already that good. You have already won Super Bowls. You were already the MVP. Why are you recording the other team's practice to gain an upper hand if you're already the best? There's so many instances where the Patriots cheated. Everybody knew if you played at Foxborough, they were going to get the calls. If they got stopped on 3rd and goal, on 4th and goal, penalty. What is going on right now with the Chiefs and Mahomes was exactly what was going on with Tom Brady and the Patriots. And I was seeing that unfold. Let's go farther back. Growing up as a kid, I was a 49er fan. I hated the Cowboys since back then. One of the reasons I hated the Cowboys, besides the fact that they beat the 49ers a couple of times to go to the Super Bowl, was every time I saw a game at Cowboy Stadium, they would get all the calls. If there was an incomplete pass interference. And I was like, why do they keep getting away with this? Like, how could the refs just keep on deciding to give them the benefit of the doubt every single time? That annoyed me so much. Even as a kid, I couldn't stand it. Couldn't stand them just getting the calls. Like, it seemed like an unfair advantage every time they played at home. The Boston Red Sox cheated. Houston Astros. Let's not even go there. The Houston Astros, and them not getting punished the way they should have. I think that's why they're forever going to be tainted. And this sentiment of mine goes back even if I'm playing a card game and I see someone try to lie or cheat, or you're playing basketball and the ball goes out and they say, no, it was in, or it didn't go out, or no, but it hit the line, and they're going to argue that it hit the line because they just want that upper hand that one time. Is like, dude, just play it fair. And I'm not saying I grew up like being a clean cut guy. I always bended the rules. I've always enjoyed bending the rules, but I didn't want to break the rules. Like, I was never suspended in my whole life, but I was taken to the principal, to the vice principal on more than one occasion. So I guess you could say, yeah, I've bended the rules, but I never, once it gets into the area of integrity, and I think that's where I pride myself in, having integrity, having some kind of righteousness, that it's always irked me when I see somebody trying to cheat or trying to gain an unfair advantage in anything. If we're playing a board game, if we're playing video games, if we're playing basketball, or if I watch it. For example, like Floyd Mayweather he considered, and probably still does, the best boxer of all time. And when he's fighting Victor Ortiz, he gives him a cheap shot when he had his hands down. If you're the best boxer in the world, why did you have to do that to score the victory or the knockout? Don't like it. We'll never consider him the best. I don't think he's the best. He's the best defensive boxer. So I've always been so into, like, it has to be done right. Like, it's not fair for this other person. It's not fair for this other person. So I've grown up. I evolved into more of a, like I said, like a justice warrior, where you can't get away with that. He shouldn't get away with that. So enter politics. We see how people get away with things. I've seen the systemic racism when a black kid and a white kid commit the same crime. One gets a few months, one gets the maximum. So that always bugged me. Police brutality was a big thing for me. Whoa, police brutality. How they have gotten away with it. So much that they have gotten away. They get away with murder. That's why the whole George Floyd thing was a victory, because finally you held the cop accountable. If you're young, you weren't alive for this, or you don't know this, or you didn't live through it, when before there was cameras, there was only those camcorders, huge ones, that you put the VHS tape inside of it. They recorded 4 cops beating on a black guy, Rodney King Jr. I'm not sure if it was Jr., but 4 cops, he was on the floor, and they were out taking turns hitting him with the baton and kicking him, not putting him under arrest, not handcuffing him or picking him up and putting him in the police car. They were just taking turns beating him. Back then, they didn't have to worry about being filmed or recorded because there wasn't no cameras everywhere like there are now. So that got released. That was a huge scandal. They went to court. All of them were found not guilty, despite the fact that there was video proof. So it was outrageous back then. That's what led to the riots, the famous riots here in Los Angeles. So where am I getting with this? This all ties into my stance in politics, where I feel that people should be held accountable for committing crimes, for screwing other people over. So when I see someone like Trump with his rhetoric and his divisiveness continue to get away with it since 2015, it has always irked me. It's a no-go for me. You know, from mocking a disabled person, that should have been the end of it. We should never have even been here talking about politics. But politics, the thing is that once he decided to make attacks about certain races, it became personal. Now, everybody that was never into politics or didn't care Now they start hearing about it like, wait a minute, what? You're talking about me now? And unfortunately, because of social media and the internet, politics has crept into everybody's living room, into everybody's phone. So now everybody has a word or say in it. And I've seen it. I've seen every election cycle, there's a new batch of young people and voters, and they're outraged. Oh my God, look at what's going on with abortions. Look at what's going on with child trafficking. Look at what's going on with guns. The guns are out of control. And there's always social issues that they get swept by because they seem to think it's like a new thing or it just happened. And the same social issues that the higher ups have used to keep dividing us and keep us fighting so they could continue to get rich and get away with what they get away with. So when people tell me about abortion, and abortion was a constitutional right for the past more than 50 years, right? In every state. Where was your uproar about abortion years back, or when you were in high school, or when you were younger, or you were in college, like guys my age? Where was that outrage 20 years ago? Were you an advocate about abortion? Same thing with gun control. Gun control was always an issue. Police brutality was an issue. Immigration was an issue. There's been an immigration issue for decades and decades and decades. It's just it's just handled differently now. Where were you when all those people were getting deported 10, 20, 30 years ago? Where were you when there was all this discrimination to every Latino looking person? And now it's really bad. Now the immigration is an issue like never before. It's been an issue and it continues to be an issue, and it probably will continue to be an issue. It's nothing new. It's just the tools that they use to get people to get emotionally charged and side with them. So going back to how I got sucked into politics was primarily that. I've always felt like integrity matters, doing the right thing matters. It goes a long way. It's always sometimes harder to do the right thing. So as I say farewell to politics in this video, for now, not for good, because it's part of our lives and it affects us. It affects what's going to happen with a lot of our surroundings. To give, I guess, my final thought on the election results, what I've noticed is that no one really is too concerned with who they vote for because it doesn't directly affect their lives. It doesn't affect how they're going to, it feels like it's not directly affecting them if they vote for somebody that's racist, for somebody that is against your race, someone that's clearly been against Hispanics, minorities from other countries. You feel like, well, I'm not a criminal. Well, I'm documented, so there's no issue for me there. And I think that is the huge lack of empathy. I think that is the huge lack of empathy that exists in this country, that the internet and social media created this void where everybody could just attack one another and say, well, too bad for them. That has nothing to do with me. That was never the American way. That is not the America that I grew up in. As cliche as it might sound, the America that I grew up in is how they talk about lifting each other up, helping each other, not being racist. So I grew up, whatever was going on when I was a kid, there was a lot of pro-environment teaching in schools. We had Earth Day. We were taught to pick up the trash. There was a water shortage when I was a kid that they would say, when you're brushing your teeth, turn the faucet off while you're brushing your teeth and then turn it back on. And I used to do that as a kid because I cared about the environment. I cared about animals, and I always grew up that way. So to me, when you're voting for somebody because that's the side that wants to allow trans kids in sports, like, that's not the issue they make it to be. Yeah, I'm not in favor of it, but that doesn't mean it's gonna steal my vote to vote for something that I feel is a bigger danger and a much worse threat to the livability of every American in this country. The freedom of choice has always been the number one thing here, right? So I don't get why everybody is okay with the government making decisions or health decisions. For example, I'm not in favor of abortions. That doesn't mean I'm going to vote for the government to come down and make a decision, a personal decision that a family might be going through because a 12-year-old was raped and now she's forced to carry a child. Let's say somebody's wife, a conservative family, the wife was raped by a person of color. Is the husband going to be okay with her carrying that baby to term and being the father of this other criminal and having to take care of his kid? Maybe. But what if they made the choice that, you know what, we don't want to go to that route. We don't want to bring that child into this world, especially the way that it happened. That would be their choice. Even though I'm not in favor of abortion, we can't have the government come down and say, no, you know what, you have to carry that baby to term. Even though you were raped, even though it was going to be a bastard or whatever the case, it should be the choice of the family, the mother, and the doctors. Let's say in the case that a baby is affecting the life of the mother and you have to choose between the mother surviving or the baby. Why does the government get a say in that and not the mother or the family? So we don't want the unborn child to die, right? But what if that decision causes the mother to die or both of them to die? Isn't that not the same thing? We're letting somebody die because of a decision that they didn't have. So I think there's circumstances, there's instances, crucial instances, not the common ones, where you can't say much about abortion other than it's up to that person, it's up to that family. So in essence, allowing the mother to die kind of is the same thing as allowing the baby to die, right? So which one's right? And the thing is that there are babies that could be born all the way full term with such a defect that they will probably die minutes, hours after they're born. And you might not be aware that there's been babies born with the brain outside of the head. That's not going to survive. So if they decide to put that baby down before it's born or after it's born, that is something that maybe has to happen because the mom doesn't want the baby to suffer or gasp in the last seconds of their life. And the reason I say this because in my senior year, I volunteered in my human anatomy class to go to the College of Chiropractic. They told us what was there: dead bodies. We were going to examine dead bodies. We were going to touch body parts. I was prepared. The whole class was mentally prepared. I think only one or two students opted out. So we all went on the bus. We all went into this huge room, like kind of like a warehouse. And we all circled around this dead body in front of us. It was open and they passed around certain body parts. So I saw a lot of dead bodies that day. But one thing I wasn't prepared to see, which was a section all the way to the back, was all the fetuses, all the unborn babies or born babies that came out with such a defect, but they had them in giant jars in water or some kind of liquid, I guess, to preserve it, to use it as an example. So that's the part that hit me and disturbed me pretty bad. Seeing, unborn fetuses in jars that weren't able to live, that had to be aborted. So that goes back to the whole thing. It's like there's babies that will not survive, or them being inside of the mother is affecting the mother so bad that the mother might not survive. You don't wait until, one of the two or both are going to die. So why is that up to the government? That's a part where there should be some exceptions. But where do you draw the line? How many weeks? What are the reasons? That's why you don't let the government draw the line for you. So I reiterate, I am not for abortions. I don't think abortions should ever happen. But I'm not one to say, given the circumstances that have happened, I'm not one to vote to take that ability away from a family. So going back to the integrity side of myself that always feels it needs to be the right thing, or you need to do your part to help out people, to help out anyone around you, being polite, being helpful, being a friend. That side of me is what has made me be more of a Democrat, because I've believed in helping people that are less fortunate. But it doesn't mean that people deserve to be mistreated. Everyone should be treated equally with respect. Even if I don't see their point of view, but now we live in an age where that's kind of out the window. And going back to what I said is that you're going to vote for somebody that's a really bad person that's done really awful things for the sake of, I don't want my kids to learn anything about LGBT. They're not teaching children gay sex. They're not teaching that. They teach them kind of to be inclusive, kind of to accept everybody, but they're not teaching them what it is or what makes someone gay. That's not allowed. They're not allowed to do that. I would play the clip of Gavin Newsom saying, no, that's not true. We don't teach that. That is not allowed to be taught in elementary. Oh, but they teach gender, what is it? Gender, something about gender, or some people say that they teach that subject about gender. I forgot what it's called, but gender is a choice and gender is a spectrum. It's not the same as the type of sex you are, even though the science contradicts that. So I'm not in favor of that either, but I'm not going to sacrifice everything else that I feel is beneficial to every human because of that. And I feel Trump winning the election is a big sign of how we have lost touch in a humane way. The loss of humanity and empathy in people, especially in this country, to vote against so many people, against so many people's well-being, against so many people's right, because, oh wow, it doesn't affect you, right? It's not going to come into your house. It's not going to affect you that way directly. The one thing that does bug me now is that so many people that voted for Obama or never had an issue with Obama their whole lives until now. Now, all of a sudden, Obama was the worst president. Obama destroyed this. Obama did that. What changed? What did Obama do in the last 8 years? Nothing. It's because the right-wing media told you that. It told you this person is bad. I grew up thinking Reagan was a good president. I've seen a lot of stuff of how he destroyed the middle class, how he's to blame for this and that, still to this day and age. And yeah, maybe I was a little bit uninformed, but I still consider him a good president. So seeing like all this new hate for Obama now is like, do some research, get educated instead of listening to your pundits tell you how bad Obama was. It was a consensus of how good of a president he was, how he took us out of the worst economy and the worst disaster this country has seen since the Great Depression, probably even worse, and how he handed over a thriving economy to Trump. And this is what I tell people when it comes to, well, I voted for Trump because back then things were cheaper, I had more money. It's like, of course. Guess what? During Obama's time, things were also even cheaper and we had even more. Life after the pandemic is not the same as life before in the pandemic. Just because you put the same person that was there before doesn't mean it's going to revert everything back to how it used to be. There's no magic wand that he has that's going to lower prices. There's no magic wand that's going to lower gas prices. Things change now, especially because of the pandemic. Oh, but inflation was really low during Trump. Yeah. And what did he do for that? How did he tackle inflation, high gas prices during this time? He didn't. Spoiler alert, he did not, because he didn't have to. It didn't exist. You can't credit him for doing something that he never really even had to work on. Politics that you try to get people to educate themselves, because why is it that the states with the highest education, with the more bachelor degrees, the more democratic they are? Because they don't go by Fox News. Because you go out to the world and you see that there's people different people that are affected differently. People that have really faced discrimination, people that have really suffered from certain policies targeting their class, their neighborhood, their race. So once you go out to college and you go to other states and you see that all these things that Democrats try to fight for, all this equality that might seem just like BS, there's a reason for that. From what I've noticed, you are a product of your environment. Where you grew up in, the neighborhood, the school, your friends, who you talk to, that shapes out your mentality, your views on certain things. Until you experience something firsthand, that's when you're going to have a strong view on something, a more educated view. Where you grow up in, what state, what city, if it's more red or more blue, that's how your views are going to be. But it's not until you experience systematic racism or some type of discrimination or something doesn't affect you directly, then that's where you're gonna get, okay, wait a minute. You think all those parents that fight for gun control, to ban assault rifles, to ban armed rifles in certain states, or to ban them completely, do you think they were like that before their child got killed? No, of course not. It's not until it directly happens to you that you're going to fight for it, that you're going to fight and you're going to try to do something about it, because now it's affected you. Everybody has a right to choose, but politics now, I feel like I fight it because it's so evil that they know what they're doing. They know they're lying to you. They know they're getting away with it. When I see them come out and say blatant lies, I think people aren't going to fall for that. There's no way people are going to believe that. Sure enough, here we are, everyone believing that immigrants in this country are like the worst problem that have caused all the problems, when in actuality they've been more of a benefit to the economy than they have problems, and they're least likely to commit crimes than people born here. But they magnify any undocumented crime, they magnify it, boom, in the media, it's all over your face, it's all over your news feed, because you believe everything that they're going to tell you. And every argument that I've had with somebody with an opposing view, they're very uneducated on the topic, which can irk anybody. Why do you have such strong opinions on stuff you really don't know about? But that's what politics is. Just to wrap up this whole farewell to politics video, because I'll be doing other videos that don't have nothing to do with politics. I'm going to give you guys what I came to discover what politics is, and why the fight and the pull from right and left, from blue and red. And once you trace everything, every policy, every fight to this, it's going to make sense. Trust me. So this country was founded by Europeans, right? White Europeans. We broke away. We said, no, we got this. And we took over this land, right? We built this country. This country was built by white Europeans. And they expanded, they took over, manifest destiny, slaughter all the Indians. This land is my land and only my land. Now, So this country became the best country in the world by or because of white Europeans. And to a certain point, it's understandable. It's like you build this house for your family, other people that you let come in because they don't have a place to stay. They'll be, well, you know what? You have an extra room. Let me bring my family in. Well, no, you know what? Go build your own house. Go build your own house. This is my house. I built this. But then they pass a law that you have to allow this person in and you have to rent that room out to them now. That's how I see how this country is. So the Republican Party is comprised mainly of white European descent. All of their laws, all of their beliefs are based on preserving everything in this country more for white people. Whereas as a Democratic Party, they are comprised of minorities and they try to include minorities in everything. So now that minorities are included, now they're benefiting from what the white person built. Now they're benefiting for what the white man built for themselves and their families. So it's like, hey, wait a minute, this is ours, this is not yours. So this is what politics is. It's the Republicans trying to preserve, trying to do everything to keep their heritage, the dominant species, the dominant race, and to have it for them first. And it's the Democratic side trying to push everybody that's not white into positions of power, into the same programs. So when you see minorities come to this country and get help, even if it's food stamps or medical help, it's like, why are they getting that? We built this country for us, not so anybody could just come in and enjoy what we built. This might sound far-fetched. I'm not sure how it might sound to you, but everything you see, the laws that are trying to pass, Democrats are always against racial discrimination, against gap in wealth, because you have the top 1% mainly white, and you have the lower class that are minorities. So closing the gap, closing the wealth gap, means closing the gap between whites and non-whites. So in a nutshell, you have one side, the Republican side, trying to pass laws to preserve everything for themselves or to exclude everybody that's a minority. And on the other side, you have a party that's trying to include and help everybody regardless of where they come from and what race they are. And if you look at the bills that they fight over, if you look at the social issues that they fight over, it all traces back down to that. Why does Project 2025 want to push back so many policies that were enacted to stop racial discrimination? Because they want to take all that out. They want to take out anything that you could feel that you're being discriminated on, no matter the history, no matter how horrible the candidate, no matter how anti-religious he might be. He's going to have the religious vote. He's going to have the white vote no matter what. And we've already seen that a white man could get away with anything. And that's what politics is. Politics is not sharing with minorities and keeping everything here in this country. That's what a nationalist is. And a white nationalist is more on the level of white supremacy. And we've seen that in the people that Steve Bannon, Stephen Miller, his laws are all about stopping minorities and deporting them all. Like, if they know that the issue in this country are not immigrants, why do they want to deport them all? And they know that that's not the main issue in this country because they're not the ones committing most of the crime. They're not the ones taking the jobs. They're not the ones buying houses. They even blame the housing problem on them. So just to simplify it for everybody, as my final thought, from what I've lived, what I've seen, what I've researched, blah, 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 that's what politics is. A party that's trying to suppress one side, the non-white side, and a party that's trying to give equality to everybody, even non-white. And you have that fighting against each other. That's what all politics is. Keep the rich man richer, keep the white man richer, and keep the poor poor. That's the goal. That's always going to be the goal, because you don't want any minority to gain too much power. You can't say the government is evil when your candidate is not in office, and then say they're doing great things all of a sudden when your candidate is in office. That's going to continue to be the struggle, is trying to pass laws that benefit minorities against trying to pass laws that don't benefit minorities. They are afraid, and there's videos of a guy talking to a minority at the dinner table saying that their fear is that they want the white man to be the minority. They feel like they're being, they're being targeted. They feel like we Mexicans, immigrants, whatever, minorities want to make the white people the minority of this country. And they're not having it. They're going to do whatever they have to do to not ever let that happen. Trust me. We're seeing it now. So for now, fascism is winning. You could be too in tune to the, I just can't do the LGBT thing. Oh, they're killing babies with the abortion, blah, blah, blah. That's just what tools that they use. And they've remained in power, and they're going to remain in power. And that's about it. Okay, that's enough. I gave you guys a tip. Every time there's a fight in Congress about passing a bill, trace it back where it comes from. What's the purpose of it? Why don't Republicans want to pass this bill? Why don't they want to fund this? It all makes sense now when you realize the purpose of it. And I already broke the code for you. I gave you the reason and the purpose. The Republican side is going to maintain the white dominance. The Democratic side is going to try to share that wealth and that dominance with all types of people, all minorities from other countries. And that's going to be the ongoing issue and struggle in the U.S. So there you have it. You learned something new. Maybe you already knew that. But from what I've seen, it traces back down to it. Any movie recommendations that still hold up for today? American History X. Watch that movie if you haven't seen it. But that's all I have for today, for this go around. Until next time, peace out.